phenomenal support, and they never pushed back on that. It was always this sense of actually they were encouraging it, in fact. And so it was this sense of once you get as an audience to episode 8, you have a full understanding of that, rather than, I remember going in and talking to Alex saying there's this incredible character of Modesto, and you know this sense that you go from OJ to this family and in the Philippines, whereas you can really earn that journey by going backwards. And I think that was the sort of central energy that we wanted to make sure you understood the meanings of all those tiny ripples. And there's a beautiful photo of the cast actually of Darren and John and this family, and I really think this is a story about families, that this huge tragedy with all these police officers really starts with these families, and the opposite side of it, the Versace family with his incredible mother, and how that family grows into this enormous industry of love and creation, and this other family ends up being so destructive and so so terrible. And so it's two families, I think, at the heart, and the entire story is the same. You go back from all these Asians to these two families.
Judith, I want to take a minute and talk about Mike Farrell, who you mentioned earlier. You work with him, and he's so amazing as Lee, and you really felt the love between this couple. And just if you could give us a sense of what your experience of working with Mike was like, that would be great.
I fell in love with him. I mean, he's just so incredible, and the way in which he was so open and so available. There were things that we did together, that we talked about together. There's this one scene where we're at this event where he's being honored, and we just did this kind of very naturally. We did this improv with each other before I went out to introduce him and before he was coming out. And so they filmed little bits and pieces of that, the reactions. And when you work with someone, and I would have to say, even though I haven't gotten to work with everybody on this panel, there is a feeling around this show, this piece, and that encompasses the whole feeling and gave us the kind of lift that I think both Mike and I sort of gravitated to and grabbed onto each other with. When you have, great directors like Matt and like Dan and Gwyneth Horder-Payton, who directed the episode that I did, there's this feeling, and great producing. I mean, I have to say, I've always wanted to work with Ryan Murphy. Everybody talked about the team. And it was absolutely true. I mean, the last day that we shot some of the stuff that I shot back in February was Brad was there, and just being there, and Dan was directing it, and so supportive, and you don't always have that. You don't always have that kind of that the whole team has that feeling to it. And I think that comes from Ryan holding the space for everybody to be the best that they can be. Hair, makeup, everybody. And I think Mike and I took that on, and we carried that with us as we were going through that episode. And I think you have to have that with these two people, because otherwise you wouldn't understand the depth of sorrow that I still feel when I am witness to this story. And I think it's right that we feel that we recognize that there has been terrible loss, and I value and exponential love, and I value that.
I think one of the things, the challenge of the show, is that we review the cast almost every two episodes. It's a road trip. We have central figures, and we gave this great challenge to Nicole Daniels and Courtney Wright, who are brilliant casting directors, who are the ones who brought up Mike Farrell and all these sort of people. And you look at what they've done. I just get excited as a producer. This is what you want to do. You want to bring people together and have them look like this.
And it was, just on that, it was this enormous challenge that each episode, you're not having one set of a cast of characters that moves through the whole series. You had to work, in a sense, each episode becomes about the victims. It's very unusual for a crime story to put the victims at the center and the heart of the piece. With the Versaces at 1 and 2, You then have, Judith Light and his incredible performance as Marilyn in 3. In 4, you have David. In 5, you have Fern. I mean, it's the victims are the main characters there, and I think that's pretty much unprecedented for a crime story. To say actually, this is the heart of the show. This is the heart of the piece, and it was this sense of incredible loss. And we live in very divided times. We're all told about how separate we all are, but actually, this is a story about people being interconnected. And it is extraordinary that you had this, Navy officer connected to Versace, connected to the guy in Chicago, and actually how close we all are. And I think that's sort of at the heart of this piece.
Speaking of Jeff Trail, the actor who played him, Finn Rock, he said, Darren, that you were... Darren, he described you as being very playful on set, and he thought it was a defense mechanism. True or false?
Absolutely true. Yeah, it's sort of, I would say defensive. It was more of a coping.
A coping.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, when you're in the trenches with these hardworking professionals for long hours, people are stressed, people are tired, and you're kind of put into a quarterback morale precedent-setting situation. Obviously, what we're doing is very bleak. One learns to have a bit of fun on set. I won't say specifically what, because of, it's pretty insensitive when you think of what we're shooting. Truly, like that dawns on me. I'm not saying we had a laugh a minute, but I think
maybe laugh.
Not once. I never made a comment ever. I still one of these things. I'm dying to do it. But I think it's an important thing because we get really lost in these really, I wouldn't say lost, we kind of find ourselves in these really dark places in a very bleak world, and we're blessed with very gifted actors that really bring their A game. And so, yeah, it's almost to look out for my colleagues. Maybe Finn more than others, because I particularly remember fucking with Finn more than other people. But it's to take us out of it because it really is so bleak. And if I may, just because you asked Judith about the BJ Honeycutt over here. I just wanted to say something very quick about Mike Farrell. That people always ask me what the hardest thing to shoot is, and I think people want to hear the violence, the aggression, being angry. These are simple things. Violence is a base act from very accessible things that is easy to get angry. What is truly twisted and heartbreaking is looking into Mike Farrell's eyes with this raw, tragic conflict within himself. Playing this deeply closeted man who loves his wife, loves his life and his work, and is truly a good man that is fighting a demon he cannot escape. And me having to drive the car of somebody, waging psychological warfare on this person. When I would leave those scenes, I would go, And I think people on set maybe thought it was because, I was, getting intimate with Mike Farrell. It wasn't that. It was having to penetrate a man's soul who was trying so desperately to keep it together. And God, that killed me, Mike. Fucking killed it. That's all I have to say.
Coped with, such intense material, how do you deal with that? Like, Max, what are your strategies for when you're in a dark place on the set and then you have to...
I just take a nap. I immediately go to sleep. I have no other defense mechanism. It is. It's a dark place, and to tap into some of that stuff and to live in that, specifically that time and the loss and being lost. Is uncomfortable, and you want to hold on to it because you think you're going to lose it for the duration of shooting. But I remember when we finally finished, because you guys had called me, we're going to do that other scene, which is the finale, and you're like, all right, I'm going to hold on to this a little bit longer. I do remember when we wrapped that day, feeling like, okay. It was a nice release, and it was good to let go of that. But it was holding on to some real sadness with
thank God for Darren's playfulness. I just, Finn's not here to say it, but us three had some fun. I mean, we had to, and I am a person, my process is very, very, very different from Darren's. We could not be more unlike in our processes. And besides really respecting that, because I'm the, music, I'm about to be killed, here we go,
And I'm eating donuts.
Yeah, and he's like, we're getting into the scene, and Darren's just like, hey man, how you going? And I'm like, I'm about to be killed. And Darren is like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then we jump into the scene, and Darren is like, boom, right there. It is like frighteningly good. And I just got to say this, because every take that Darren did was completely different from the last, and it was thrilling as an actor, because you are in this scene and you think it's going this way, and then he throws you a line and you're like, oh my God, I've got to run with whatever this is. And then they go, okay, we're going to do another take, and you go, I've got you. And then he throws you something completely different. And then at the end of it, he shakes it off and you have a laugh together. And it's just, it really is so impressive. And without that,
thank you for saying that.
It's super impressive. And if you didn't have Darren on set, this would have been hard, You
were not playful with me?
Australians get it.
I don't know, maybe we're all... You know what? I brought you to the best stages. Sugar daddy. I don't know. It feels like you were so playful with other while we were suffering.
This is horrible. This is not good. I will say, I think part of me even doing that, even to defend myself from sounding like a complete jerk-off on a very professional set, I think there is an element, Andrew was a playful person, and I think a lot of what made Andrew so terrifying to a lot of people was this sort of like, what? Oh, gee, I thought we were here, and you just, hard turned here, and so, if you exist in a dark place and you invite those around you to be there, you're sort of compromising that ability for all of us to kind of get hit hard with this sort of, Andrew mood torpedo. So, I think maybe subconsciously I try to imbibe that. I'm glad nobody here is being like, just so you know, Darren was horrible on set, so thank you for putting up with my shenanigans. There's a lot of takes that I'm going to steal from the Ryan Murphy vault one day. I've been falling down a lot of staircases, but I will never see those. Those were just for me.
The real Andrew Cunanan was so entertaining and so glib and so funny to so many people. They knew he was a liar. They knew he was a terrible liar, but they didn't care because he was so entertaining. And
that was Darren.
There's something I'd like to add. I'm talking about dark places. I guess as you all watch, otherwise you wouldn't be here watching the end. But in the first episode, I thought, that I would spend much of the time dead, right? Because it's when he gets killed. But then there, Gianni was shot around, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I have the writer here, around 8:45 that morning, right? And then he was declared dead at 9:20.
Yes, and that's, should I just interject there? The reason it took so long is because they had one eyewitness who saw it, and they wanted her to identify him in a police lineup thinking they were going to catch him. But then, and so that gave him so much more time to get away, but at the same time, the reason he was identified so late was because all the politicians wanted to be present when they made the announcement, and we had to wait for the mayor of Miami to come in on a helicopter to land, and so it was just, and then they were terrified that they might be making a mistake on his fingerprints and all these things, and they were, it was an insane scene. Yeah.
No, well, and then, so he spent almost a good 40 minutes dying, and I'm saying this because I think that one of the most sensorially charged moments and experiences I've ever had as an actor was being dying on the steps and having Ricky holding me. It's I mean that's actually I don't remember a visual thing because my eyes were closed and I was facing down. But he was holding me in front of every paparazzi on earth that was there that day. And actually, I imagine that that's how it happened that day with all the craziness in Ocean Drive. And I want to say this because I think that what we see in this episode through Ricky's performance, it's a continuation of that. It's like that grief that never went away. And I remember Ricky because we did takes, and Ricky holding me and trembling, and all I remember is his breath, and he's trembling and shaking like this level of shock, and I was there unable to react, and I can only imagine that maybe he wasn't dead, he was dying. Maybe, I mean, the idea of Gianni listening to all of this and being unable to react haunted me for weeks. And it was so beautiful what you did as well. So, I can now see the other side. And there's another thing as well, when it was in a coffin for an entire episode as well. When it was in a coffin and she was saying goodbye, I had to have my eyes closed, and Penelope was there, suffering. So it was a beautiful. Maybe it's not a panel to discuss this, but it's just what I take away from that, from the performances of my friends and my colleagues, that I couldn't see. I just felt them. Yeah.
So before we wrap this up, I would be remiss if we didn't talk quickly about the costumes, which were incredibly beautiful. Everyone had some beautiful looks. I'd like to know if anybody had something that they really wanted to sneak away with. And Darren, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to really hope that you say Andrew's pink Speedo.
I'm wearing it right now. Obviously. No, those will definitely be, hopefully, in my drawer sometime soon.
Antonio had some amazing clothes as well. Was there anything, Ricky, that...
Yeah, but I wanted the wings of the escort that was dancing.
Oh,
yeah. G-string, yeah, I can use that, maybe.
I was looking for my house keychain. It's a Versace Medusa. It's the one from the movie, from the first episode.
Oh,
the one that I picked up. Yeah.
Judith, did you sneak anything in?
Every one of those suits, was handmade. It was extraordinary. I mean, the lining inside those clothes was so remarkable. So that when you put them on, and the wigs, I mean, the makeup and hair, and I mean, the whole combination of everything. I mean, it certainly reminded me of a time in my life that I haven't long passed and was happy to get out of this clothes. But to put them back on again and to have that fill the character and the stance and the shoes and the jewelry and everything, and it was all done in one day, because I literally got there the beginning of September, and we did everything in one day, and the alacrity with which they made everything and put everything together was remarkable. And then we had to send we did all of the pictures. We had to send all of them to Ryan to make sure that everything was approved, and he signed off on everything. And they spent hours putting those nails on me, those nails. But they were an important part of the story because of that one moment that you wrote, Tom, that was so incredible and so revealing of just her sitting there with those nails on that countertop. It told you everything. So all of that was incredibly informative for me for playing the character.
It was fun watching Lou deal with the clothes. We had a joke with David because David never changed, for a whole episode. But so I didn't take anything away but my relationship with Lou. And it's funny with Lou because she's so brilliant and she's worked with Ryan for so long that you get into the costume room and you would pick things out and she'd say, okay, we really want this shirt with this pants. How do we pick enough things that will make Ryan choose this one over.
That's so true. It was like a puzzle, you know. It was really fun. And then you'd come back and I'd say, Lou, did we get it? And she'd say, Ryan said, find some more clothes. So that was fun.
Ryan did, if you remember the first episode, Versace's in a pink robe that he walks in and he flows. And Ryan on set said, I want that robe. So Lou had one made. My wife had a baby in the middle of this long shoot, and we got the wardrobe department delivered all these onesies with Medusa heads.
You know, I talked to Antonio, and now I'm going back to a scene where we're in the beach and we're walking, and he's crying. I'm wearing this shocking green shirt. Obviously, it was shot by the paparazzis everywhere. So I talked to Antonio. He goes, "But Ricky, please, you have to understand. I would never use a green shirt in my life." I'm like, you have to understand that this is not a painting. This is not a picture. This is a painting. And you understand, but. He stopped talking to me. You have to tell Ryan that I don't wear green. I wear black. And I'm like, can I keep the green for me? It was interesting.
Well, I would like to thank this incredible cast.